Welcome to the Connect Secure Administration and Maintenance e-learning video. In this session, we will review specialized web resource policies. There are a couple of web resource policy options. They include web proxy and rewriting. We will first review web, then web proxy, then servers. You can direct all web requests made through Pulse Connect Secure to a web proxy rather than using Pulse Connect Secure to connect directly to web servers. This feature can be useful if your network security policy requires this configuration or if you want to use a caching web proxy to improve performance. You must configure the web proxy server to create the web proxy policy. You must first define your web proxy by entering the host name or IP address and the TCP port on which this proxy is running. You can define as many proxies as you have on your network. Note that currently Pulse Connect Secure does not support web proxy authentication. If you want to use the Connect Secure web proxy feature, you must configure your web proxy to accept unauthenticated users. Next, we will look at web, then web proxy, then policies. After you have defined your proxy server, simply define the resources that should be forwarded through the proxy server in a web proxy policy. The example on the image shows all web content forwarded to proxy.pulse.local. Next, we will look at selective rewriting. This can be found under Web, then Rewriting, then Selective Rewriting. Use this tab to write a web resource policy that allows you to define a list of hosts for which you want Pulse Connect Secure to intermediate content and exceptions. By default, Pulse Connect Secure intermediates all user requests to web hosts, unless you have configured Pulse Connect Secure to serve requests to specific hosts using a different mechanism. Create a selective rewriting policy if you do not want Pulse Connect Secure to intermediate traffic from websites that reside outside of the corporate network, or if you do not want Pulse Connect Secure to intermediate traffic for client-server applications you have deployed as web resources. When you write a rewrite policy, the parameters are the same as other policies, with the exception of the action. You can choose to rewrite or not rewrite content for the specified websites. Next, we will review Passthrough Proxy. This can be found under Web, then Rewriting, then Passthrough Proxy. The Passthrough Proxy feature enables you to specify web applications for which Pulse Connect Secure performs minimal intermediation. Unlike traditional reverse proxy functionality, which also rewrites only selective parts of a server response but requires network changes as well as complex configuration, this feature requires that you specify only application servers and the way in which Pulse Connect Secure receives client requests to those application servers. The application servers available are to use virtual hostname and to use the IVE port. When using the virtual hostname, you will need to specify an application for the pass-through proxy to intermediate. You specify an alias for the application server hostname. You must add an entry for this alias in your external domain name system, or DNS, that resolves to Pulse Connect Secure. When Pulse Connect Secure receives a client request for the alias, it forwards the request to the port you specify for the application server. The other application server is to use the IVE port. Specify a port in which Pulse Connect Secure will listen for client requests to the application server. When Pulse Connect Secure receives a client request, it forwards the request to the specified application server port. When you choose this option, you must open traffic to the specified Pulse Connect Secure port on your corporate firewall. Note that the Passthrough Proxy option works only for applications that listen on fixed ports and where the client does not make direct socket connections. For other types of applications, you might need to use the Secure Application Manager, or SAM, or Network Connect features. Next, we will review ActiveX parameter rewriting. This can be found under Web, then Rewriting, then ActiveX parameter. Use the ActiveX parameter rewriting policy to control when Pulse Connect Secure rewrites the ActiveX class ID parameter URLs, which are embedded in the source HTML, into Pulse Connect Secure rewritten links. You can access many ActiveX embedded objects through Pulse Connect Secure rather than directly. By configuring a policy of this type, you can control which ActiveX class IDs are written and how they are rewritten. Several predefined ActiveX parameter rewriting rules exist. If you must modify this list or add your own, you can do so through this policy. For a given ActiveX class ID, you can configure multiple parameters and an action for each of those parameters. You can see those options available on the image. Next, we will now review cross-domain access. This can be found under Web, then Rewriting, then Cross-Domain Access. The XML HTTP request object allows scripts to perform HTTP client functionality, such as submitting data or loading data from a server. Today's web browsers impose a security restriction on the use of XML HTTP request. You are not allowed to make XML HTTP requests to any server except the server where your web page comes from. For example, if both your web application and the data required for that application come from the same web server, then no restrictions exist. But if your web application is on one server and you make a request for a different server, the browser prevents the connection from opening. Bypassing the security is possible. This policy determines whether or not to impose this restriction and to what level. By default, this restriction is bypassed and cross-domain access is allowed. When creating a cross-domain access policy, the following options are available. One option is to allow cross-domain access. This allows you to not impose any restrictions and allow cross-domain access. Another option is to deny the XML HTTP request cross-domain access only. This allows you to deny cross-domain access if the XML HTTP request object is used in the call. Another option is to deny all cross-domain access. This will allow you to deny cross-domain access regardless of whether or not the XML HTTP request object is used in the call. Next, we will review resource policies and specialized policies. You can configure specialized resource policies using resource profiles. By default, only the access control policy is shown when you first create a new web resource profile. You can show all available auto policy types by clicking Show All Auto Policy Types, as shown on the image. This concludes this Connect Secure Administration and Maintenance e-learning video. Please proceed to the next video in this series. For any questions, contact education@pulsesecure.net.